I mean, I study demonology and things. I just love the word Beelzebub. It's,
Freddie Mercury was more than just a singer who performed songs on stage. Music was the very essence of his existence, flowing through every moment of his life like oxygen. Each note he sang carried deep meaning, and every performance revealed something intimate about who he was as a person. The flamboyant showman audiences saw was only one side of a complex individual who spent his private time absorbing and appreciating beauty in all its forms. From his earliest days, Mercury consumed music from every genre imaginable. Opera, rock, jazz, and soul all captured his attention equally. He approached music like someone desperately thirsty, soaking up influences without discrimination. Whether something was grand and sweeping or small and intimate didn't matter to him. If it contained genuine emotion and feeling, Mercury wanted to experience it. This hunger for authentic expression would shape everything about his career. Born with the name Farrokh Bulsara, he consciously transformed himself into the legend the world would come to know. The prominent teeth he personally disliked became one of his most recognizable features. The shyness that plagued him in private transformed into bold confidence whenever he stepped onto a stage. Mercury understood transformation deeply because he had lived through it himself. The albums he treasured most were those that demonstrated different ways to express courage, vulnerability, and freedom. They showed him how to channel pain into something powerful and creative. His favorite records weren't necessarily the coolest or most obvious choices. Instead, he gravitated toward honest, emotionally raw albums. Some made him want to dance with joy, while others moved him to tears. What they all shared was the ability to make him feel intensely alive. For Mercury, music could never be mere background noise. It was fundamental proof that life could transcend the ordinary and become something extraordinary. 7 particular albums taught him the lessons he needed to become the performer he was destined to be. The first of these influential records was Aretha Franklin's album from 1967. Mercury bowed to Franklin's voice above all others in music. When her record arrived, it didn't simply entertain listeners, it testified to truth, preached gospel, and commanded respect without needing to ask for it. Franklin possessed a voice that could whisper tenderly one moment and explode with power the next. Mercury once expressed his admiration for her phrasing, wishing he could sing with her skill. She could break hearts with gentleness or rebuild them with strength. When Mercury heard her extraordinary range, he knew he had found his teacher. This was what a human voice could accomplish when nothing was held back. The opening track mixed raw blues with heartbreak in equal measure. Another song on the album transformed a simple tune into a revolutionary statement. Other tracks proved that strength didn't always require volume. Sometimes real power came from knowing precisely when to pull back and exercise restraint. Franklin controlled every single moment of her performances. Every breath served a purpose, and every note landed exactly where it needed to. Mercury studied this control with the dedication of a student preparing for crucial examinations. He wanted to command his audience with that same presence. What truly impressed Mercury was her emotional authenticity. She sang about pain as though she had earned every scar, and about joy as though she had fought for every smile. Nothing felt fake or manufactured for show. This was pure soul poured out for anyone brave enough to truly listen. Mercury learned from her that technical skill meant nothing without genuine feeling behind it. Perfect pitch was worthless if the heart wasn't invested in the performance. Years later, when Mercury sang one of his most soulful songs, Franklin's influence was evident in the gospel harmonies and the desperate cry for human connection. She taught him that the voice was an instrument of truth, and truth demanded everything you had to give. Another crucial influence came from a 1968 album that arrived like a bomb wrapped in velvet. The guitarist behind this record took his instrument to places it had never been before, making it scream, whisper, weep, and laugh. He painted with sound, creating colors that didn't exist in nature. Mercury heard this boundless imagination and recognized someone who refused to accept limitations, someone who viewed music as infinite possibility. That freedom spoke to something deep within his soul. This guitarist didn't just play songs in a conventional sense. He constructed entire worlds with his music. One track summoned thunder and lightning. Another transformed a folk song into electric prophecy. A third drifted through space and time like a half-remembered dream. The album sprawled across 4 sides because the artist had too many ideas to contain in less space. Mercury loved this ambition, this refusal to shrink oneself to fit other people's expectations. The guitarist was a genuine showman, but his theatrics always served the music rather than overshadowing it. What fascinated Mercury was the complete theatricality of the performance. The guitarist played his instrument in physically impossible ways, behind his head, with his teeth, while doing splits. But these weren't empty tricks. They were expression. His body spoke the same language as his guitar, creating performance as art, and art as performance. Mercury absorbed this lesson completely. Later in his career, when he prowled stages with unleashed energy or dropped to his knees mid-song to pour his soul into the microphone, he was channeling this influence. This album taught Mercury that being too much was always better than being too little, that spectacle and substance could coexist, and that audiences deserved a show that was both entertaining and authentic. A 1969 release from a powerful rock band also shaped Mercury's understanding of music. This was rock and roll stripped down to pure force, without apologies or gentleness. 4 musicians creating thunder together. The lead singer screamed like someone possessed. The guitarist's playing cut like a blade. The drummer's hits sounded like hammers on anvils. The bassist held everything together with rumbling foundation. Mercury heard this raw power and wanted to match it, not copy it. One track exploded with barely contained sexual energy. Another proved the band could be delicate when they chose to. A third showcased the guitarist's weapon-like precision. But the lead singer's voice grabbed Mercury's attention most strongly. That high wail, that swagger, that confidence that bordered on arrogance without crossing the line into it. The singer owned every stage he walked on, and Mercury studied that sense of ownership carefully.
What Mercury loved most was the band's mastery of dynamics. They could whisper and make you lean forward. They could roar and make you step back. They controlled the room completely, moving from soft to loud, quiet to chaos. This mastery over tension and release became essential to Mercury's own songwriting. His most famous composition lived in those dynamics, moving from soft verses to operatic thunder to hard rock chaos. Different sections, different moods, all forming one continuous journey. This band taught Mercury that a group could function as a single organism, 4 parts making one unstoppable force. Power had to be earned through kindness, trust, and total commitment. Mercury also worshipped a performer whose 1972 television concert became available as a recording. This artist didn't just sing, but truly performed. Every gesture mattered. Every facial expression told a story. She commanded attention without demanding it, making difficult things look effortless. Mercury watched this and saw a roadmap for how to own a stage, how to make every person in the audience feel like you're singing directly to them alone. This performer moved between different musical styles with total confidence. She danced, sang, and acted, making it all look as natural as breathing. Mercury loved this completeness, this refusal to be limited to just one thing. She was a complete artist, using every available tool, voice, body, face, and soul, all in service of the performance. What really impressed Mercury was her vulnerability wrapped in showmanship. She performed with everything she had, but you could still see the person underneath. Fear and courage mixed together, the need to connect fighting against the need to protect oneself. This contradiction lived in Mercury too. He was a showman who was secretly shy, a peacock who was actually fragile. This performer showed him that vulnerability made performances stronger rather than weaker. Her lessons guided him throughout his career, teaching him how to work crowds, how to make huge feelings intimate, and how to give everything while somehow still having more. A 1969 album by the most famous band in the world showed Mercury what ambition looked like. This was the group at their creative peak. They knew their time together was ending, so they made something that couldn't be ignored. One side of the album featured a medley that demonstrated what 4 musicians could accomplish when they stopped caring about rules and started caring about legacy. Songs bled into other songs, ideas connected across different melodies. Mercury heard this ambition and recognized his own dreams reflected back at him. Individual tracks offered dark mystery, perhaps the most beautiful love song ever written, and hope after darkness. But the medley that filled one entire side of the album changed everything for Mercury. One song flowed into another, creating a continuous journey. Different moods and styles combined into one piece. This showed Mercury that songs didn't have to be 3 minutes and separate. They could be adventures. What amazed Mercury was the band's fearlessness. They had nothing left to prove and could have delivered something easy. Instead, they created a masterpiece. They pushed boundaries even while saying goodbye. This dedication to craft over commerce influenced everything Mercury did afterward. His most famous song was born from this album's example of combining different sections, with opera meeting rock and ballad becoming anthem. These musicians showed him the door, and Mercury walked through it. They taught him that you honored your gifts by pushing them to their limits, that playing it safe was the real risk, and that legacy mattered more than money. Opera recordings also profoundly influenced Mercury's development. He found a soulmate in a particular opera singer whose voice soared to places rock voices never reached. Her singing was pure, powerful, and technically perfect, yet still deeply human. Mercury collected her recordings like treasure, studying how she controlled her breath, shaped her phrases, and made impossibly high notes sound easy. Opera taught Mercury that the human voice was the greatest instrument ever created. What connected Mercury to this singer was the emotion behind her technique. She didn't just hit notes perfectly, she meant them. Every phrase told a story, every held note carried weight. Mercury heard this marriage of technical excellence and emotional truth and knew that was what he wanted. Not just to sing well, but to sing meaningfully. Eventually, he and this opera singer recorded an album together, merging opera and rock into something new. 2 worlds colliding, 2 voices finding harmony across impossible distances. She taught Mercury that excellence demanded discipline, that the voice was a muscle requiring training, and that perfection and passion didn't fight but danced together. Mercury's #1 choice surprised everyone who thought they knew him. His favorite was an unfinished masterpiece by a pop genius that eventually got released decades after being abandoned. Mercury had heard bootlegs for years. Certain tracks showed him what pop music could become when genius went to war with itself. The creator layered voices like instruments, built castles from harmonies, and transformed teenage surf music into symphonies. Mercury heard this ambition and recognized family. The vision for this album was insane. Different studios for different sounds. Tiny sections recorded separately and puzzled together. Harmonies stacked until they reached heaven. The music was simultaneously joyful and paranoid, playful and desperately serious. The creator was trying to capture something impossible, the feeling of innocence mixed with knowledge, youth meeting mortality. Mercury understood this impossibility. His most famous composition tried to capture something similar. What moved Mercury most was how the ambition exceeded reality. The creator aimed too high and crashed. But the surviving pieces were stunning. The fragments showed what could have been. Mercury learned from this. Dream big, but finish the work. Push boundaries, but bring it home. This showed him what happened when you flew too close to the sun. Mercury never did anything halfway. These 7 albums taught him to be bold, theatrical, technical, and fearless. His voice soared because these voices taught it to fly. Each of these records contributed something essential to his development as an artist. They showed him that music could be transformative, that performance was an art form requiring complete commitment, and that power came from both technical mastery and emotional honesty, and that the greatest artists were those brave enough to risk everything for their vision. Mercury absorbed these lessons and became one of music's most unforgettable performers.